welcome to Top Story live in the studios this morning for us. For our very first section, we are talking to our illustrious Mayor Christian Provenzano. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem at all. Now, I know you're busy, campaigning and just doing that, running the city job.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the picketing that
Sure.
happened last week,
Yeah.
because I think there's some confusion around it. You sort of hear one side, you hear the other side, and you don't know what is really legitimate. There's obviously an issue there.
There's an issue there, and I'm happy to take the opportunity to walk through it. So I'm going to go through this pretty slowly because it's a long-standing issue.
Okay.
So right now there are two legal issues. So one legal issue is between two unions. So we have the Carpenters Union, we have the Laborers Union.
And I should say this is for the exterior refurbishing.
So what we're talking about is the cladding project at City Hall. And last week there was a picket outside of City Hall, and the Laborers Union were taking issue with the cladding project and how work was being assigned. So there's two different issues that we have to deal with here. One doesn't really involve the city. It's the Laborers Union essentially indicating that the Carpenters Union is doing work that it should be doing. And the Carpenters Union is saying we're not doing work it should be doing, we're doing our own work. So that's a dispute that the city's caught up in, but that's between the two unions.
I see, okay.
But there is a second dispute, and it's a dispute that directly relates to the city. And I think this is largely the issue that the Laborers Union has. So the city has a construction employer designation. Sault Ste. Marie is one of 4 municipalities in the province of Ontario that has this designation.
Okay.
And as a result of this construction employer designation, it's long-standing, we've had it for years, we've had it for decades. As a result of this designation, when we tender certain work and jobs, and the cladding project falls into this classification, when we tender that work, the responding parties to the tender have to be unionized, okay?
And this is decades old.
This is decades old. So specifically carpenters and laborers. So the bids came back, the responses came back, and the city decided to go with a company out of Timmins called Cyro because in accord with our policies, they were the lowest bid. Mm-hmm. Now we have to recognize something that's really important here. They were the lowest bid by $3 million.
Wow.
Yes. So there was a $3 million, just roughly a $3 million difference between their bid and the next lowest bid.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. So Cyro, and this is the crux of the issue. So this is what the legal issues, one of the two legal issues is about. Cyro is carpenters unionized.
Okay.
So they are carpenters unionized. So the city was contracting properly with a carpenters unionized body. Cyro is not laborers unionized. But Cyro, through to the city, made contractual obligations to the city. So Cyro made contractual commitments to the city that Cyro would only use labor unionized employees. So even though
Which is what they should have done and what they had to agree to.
Yeah, so we have to, on these projects, have carpenter unionized and labor unionized employees.
Yes.
We recognize that, we respect that, we intend on proceeding on projects properly with carpenters unionized and laborers unionized. Cyro's carpenters unionized. So in the contract the city entered into with Cyro, Cyro committed to the city that they would use labor unionized. So that was the undertaking that we got.
Right.
Okay. So we feel, the city feels like it satisfied its obligations as a construction employer because we directly contracted with the carpenters unionized outfit, and that outfit committed to us to use
laborers.
Unionized labor.
Right.
Okay? So we've satisfied our obligations in our opinion.
And that's why you hired them.
Yes. So I think the issue that the laborers union is taking is they're taking the position, I believe, and this will be worked out at the Labor Relations Board, that Cyro should be both carpenters unionized and laborers unionized, and we shouldn't have contracted with them because they weren't labor unionized.
They weren't labor, they were just carpenters.
So there's the legal issue.
Right.
So everybody needs to understand that there's a legal issue. So it's not.
So in your mind, they applied, they tendered for the job as carpenters.
Carpenters unionized.
Yes. Yeah. But they also made the provisions that you asked for and said, we're carpenters, but we're going to hire laborers.
Yeah, we in the contract, we said you have to hire unionized labor.
And they signed it, so,
Yeah, they committed that to us. So from the city's perspective, we discharge our responsibility. And here's where the issue really, the rubber hits the road. If the laborers unionized position is correct, that means the city shouldn't have accepted the lowest bid. It should have accepted the next bid. And that means the city should have paid roughly $3 million more for this project. That's a really hard position for the city to accept. The city doesn't believe that we should have had the taxpayers of this city pay $3 million more for this project.
Like I said, it's a ton of money.
It's a big difference. So what a lot of people in the community might not be aware of is that this city council, over the past number of years, has been talking about and addressing this matter. And what we did was we passed a resolution, it was passed by city council, which sees staff put the city in a position, if it so chooses, to challenge this designation. Challenging the designation as a construction employer is going to take a number of years. But the next mayor and council will have the tools they need to do that if they choose to do that. And I can tell you, I think that's very likely that they will choose to do that. If the Labor Relations Board says we shouldn't have picked the low bid, we should have picked the second bid. Because you're going to have, I certainly intend to be the mayor, and I hope I'm there, and I hope I can participate in this, but whomever the mayor is and whomever the councilors are, if the Labor Relations Board says, well, you should have picked the second bid, you shouldn't have picked the first one that was the lowest, then they're going to be looking at that, and they'll have a specific example of a project that would have cost multi-million more because of the designation. So Councillor Shoemaker has been making this point, he's been making it effectively, that we should have open tendering processes. And I really want to take a moment here to explain this to everybody.
Yeah.
The city's issue with the construction employer designation isn't an anti-union issue. If anybody represents it that way, I think they're misrepresenting it. What the city is saying is that everybody should be able to respond to the tender. Union, non-union. As it is now, it's only specific unions that can respond. So there's unions that are left out of our tendering process. And then there's all the non-union workers that are left out of our tendering process.
So you want to open it up to everybody?
Yes. So the city's efforts aren't anti-union. The city's efforts are pro-open tendering. So we have tendering restrictions right now, and that's what the city takes issue with. We don't want to have restrictions on our tendering. We want our tendering to be open to everybody so we can drive value for the taxpayer, and we can make sure the city can award its contracts right across the board. But right now it's restricted. So we're restricted in how we can award them. So that's the work that we're doing, and this city council has decided to take that issue on, and we've instructed staff to do the work that they need to do. To put us in a position to challenge that designation. And that will have to be decided at the beginning of 2019 because it will affect the budget. So the next budget deliberations will see this decision in those budget deliberations. And I think, you know, a lot will depend on how this works out. But in any event, this course of action in the picketing last week goes to kind of make the point that City Council was focused on a few months back when we made this decision.
Right, right. Thank you so much for clearing that up for us.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I think it's really important that people in the community
I do too.
Have the information they need to assess these issues.
Absolutely, because the more information we have, the better we can make our decisions.
I 100% with you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We're going to do some more news and some more talk right after this.